Hi guys, Joanna here. Today I will be reviewing new perfume releases that have been kindly gifted to me. As a matter of fact, I have already did my first impressions of all these fragrances in my TikTok account. So if you are not yet following me there and you want to know first impressions of new perfumes, or let's say any kind of perfume reviews, check my TikTok account at jmercadobeauty. Having said that, I think the 6 perfumes that I have today are very interesting, and I know a lot of you will be interested in checking them out as well. So yeah, let's just dive in. First up is the newest release of Room 1015 called Love-O-Matic. I have reviewed this fragrance straight away in my TikTok, and it was actually a big like for me. This is a perfume created by Jerome Di Marino for Room 1015, and I think it's such a fun, playful, and cool scent. Love-O-Matic is actually inspired by secret and spontaneous romance in laundromat. Room 1015 is always giving unique and playful concept when it comes to their perfumes, and Love-O-Matic is definitely giving another fun and playful vibe with a clean twist. This starts off quite aldehydic, so imagine like a very clean, kind of like soapy, musky opening. However, as it rises down, the aldehydic factor kind of tones down as the sweetness coming from strawberry flavored bubblegum peeks through. I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought it will just be a clean laundry kind of scent. However, the sweetness coming from the strawberry bubblegum, I think, gave this fragrance its own unique twist. I know the inspiration might sound a little bit naughty and playful, but in the end, I would say that this is more of like an everyday, clean, musky scent with a touch of sweetness from strawberry flavored bubblegum. It's such a clean and comforting musky scent, but at the same time, it is also sophisticated. There is something about this fragrance that gave it sophistication. I think because it somehow translates to be like a skin scent. So it is not loud, but it's perfect. It is a kind of perfume that will give you the feeling of like you just smell good from within. At first, this was just a like, but honestly, now that I've worn it twice already, there's something about it that is quite captivating. And it is actually because it's not a loud fragrance. I find Love-O-Matic interesting, clean, and playful, musky scent that I think will be perfect for everyday use. I'm gonna categorize this as a your skin but better kind of scent. And I think if you are into clean smelling, like fresh laundry scent, you're gonna love this fragrance as well. I know that a lot of you are into that scent category, and I think Love-O-Matic will be very interesting because of its strawberry bubblegum facet. So yeah, having said that, I highly recommend Love-O-Matic. Longevity and projection, I will say it lasts longer on skin. However, the projection is very soft and I am actually loving it. So if you are the type who is not really into loud fragrances, however, you want to smell good from within and you don't want to smell boring, highly recommend you Love-O-Matic by Room 1015, and I find this fragrance unisex. Next fragrance is the newest release of Pernoire, and this is called Melos. I was very, very excited to receive this fragrance, especially when I saw that Pernoire is coming out with a rose scent, because you know that I love rose fragrances. And Melos has such intriguing note breakdown. Let me read it to you. So Melos has rose tea, grape, grapefruit, cassis, rose, Nile honey, saffron, hazelnut, baked apple, milk, musk, amber, and patchouli. Now, Melos is short for honey and rose tea. Melos is inspired by Cleopatra's secret beauty ritual of immersing in rose petal milk baths while savoring rose-infused tea with honey. And what can I say? That is the scent that you're gonna get out of this fragrance. Imagine having a rose milk bath while drinking tea with loads of honey. Definitely a rose heavy fragrance. So if you are into rose scents, you're gonna like this fragrance. The kind of rose that is in here is quite powdery and serious. So having said that, this is not like a rose water. This to me is a serious, jammy, powdery rose that smells very luxurious. The opening of this gave me a lot of thick honey. It's rosy and it's quite lactonic. I definitely get the scent of rose petal milk bath. I have actually experienced a rose petal milk bath before while drinking tea with honey before when I was still living in Dubai, and this definitely captured that moment. Red roses, milky bath, and honey tea scent that I am absolutely loving. I will say that if you are into roses, lactonic, and honey scents, you will absolutely love Melos. Melos to me smells like a luxurious rose scent that can be a signature scent of a woman who has everything in her life together. A serious and luxurious rose scent that I will highly recommend. Melos has a very significant rose and saffron combo that is very Middle Eastern-like. So I would say that if you love that kind of Middle Eastern rose saffron combo, you're gonna love Melos. Imagine Lancome's Oud Bouquet rose and saffron combo with thick honey and milky facet. Then you're gonna get Melos. Not only it smells amazing and luxurious, it is also very long lasting. I would say quite a beast mode, just like any other Pernoire's fragrances. This one lasted on me 8+ hours and it stays on clothes. I mean, I literally have to wash my clothes to remove the scent of Melos. Also, the final dry down of Melos has an earthy patchouli lurking in the background, and I guess that is one of the reasons why this fragrance is very long lasting. So yeah, highly recommend Melos for all the rose lovers out there. Once again, Melos by Pernoire, and I find this fragrance unisex, leaning a little bit more feminine. All right, next up are the new 4 fragrances of Theodoros Kalotinis. And if you watch my channel, you know that I am a fan of Theodoros Kalotinis' work because I just find him a genius. If you haven't tried any Theodoros Kalotinis fragrances yet, basically they are all photorealistic, and to me, I just find it brilliant how he managed to capture photorealistic scents in his fragrances. Okay, anyway, now I want to talk about his new 4 gourmand scents. And yeah, I have reviewed this as well in TikTok. I gave you my first impressions of these 4 fragrances. And in my TikTok account, I let you guys know what stood out to me. And I will say that I have a change of mind. And I'll tell you why. Anyway, now let's talk about peach macaron. And I'm expecting this to smell like a peach macaron, right? Because, you know, Theodoros is always very straightforward when it comes to his scents. Peach macaron has peaches, of course, vanilla, macarons, and burnt sugar. I will say that the opening of this smells like fresh and juicy peach. with added sugar. And then as it dries down on my skin, it kind of turns milky, lactonic, almost like a yogurt. So in the end, it smells like a peach flavored yogurt with some burnt sugar on top. At first spray, I was greeted so much by fresh and juicy peaches, and I was expecting it to have like that macaron facet, so a little bit of bakery vibes, but I didn't get that. Instead, this to me smells like peaches and cream in the most natural way. This wasn't my favorite during first impression, but now I think it is. Um, I love peach macaron. There's something about it that is very zesty and refreshing. At the same time, cooling. Like it is something that will be perfect this time of the year. And I'm talking about summertime. I'm not really into peach scents, but I enjoy this peaches and cream scent by Theodoros Kalotinis. Longevity and projection as well. On me, this stays for a very, very long time, surprisingly. And amongst all the four new perfumes, this is the longest lasting one on me. I find the projection, though, moderate, but very long lasting. So I would say if you want to smell like peaches and cream, highly recommend Peach Macaron. Next is tiramisu. And for sure, you're going to expect this to smell like a tiramisu cake, right? And I'll say yes, definitely yes. This to me smells like a legit tiramisu that is very gourmand and addictive. It has that intoxicating kind of fluffiness. I think it's because of the mascarpone cheese accord that is used in here. So this has espresso, coffee, vanilla, cocoa, mascarpone cheese, biscuit, sugar, and boozy notes. Basically, the ingredients that you use as well for a tiramisu. And yeah, this is a spot on tiramisu scent. I will say that the first time I sprayed this on though, I thought of Coffee Addict, also by Theodoros Kalotinis. I only have a sample size, and they are quite similar, with Coffee Addict to be heavier in the coffee note, while tiramisu is more on the fluffy and whipped cream fluffiness facet of the mascarpone cheese that is somehow giving whipped cream texture. It is also sweeter. However, I will say that this is lighter to the feel, while Coffee Addict is thicker when it comes to texture. And I'm not saying that tiramisu doesn't have a thick texture, okay? As a matter of fact, it has the thickest texture out of all the four fragrances from Theodoros, but it is still airier. Even though it has that fluffy, creamy texture, there's something about it that becomes airier as it dries down. So to me, this is more of like a coffee and whipped cream scent with just a little bit of booziness. It definitely smells like a tiramisu to me. And I'm talking about a legit tiramisu done by an Italian chef, okay? Not a tiramisu that you can just buy in normal supermarket. This is like a fresh tiramisu cake. And yeah, I think if you're a gourmand lover and you would love to smell like a tiramisu, then this is the tiramisu scent for you. Longevity and projection, I would say, is moderate on tiramisu, lasted me around 4 to 6 hours. Next is Marzipan Gourmand. And as the name suggests, you will imagine it to smell like a marzipan gourmand, and basically spot on once again. However, though, I mentioned in my TikTok that this smells like a marzipan cake. Now, that was my first impression, because as this fragrance dries down, it actually settles into like a cherry almond kind of scent. And I'm talking about cherry that is quite reminiscent of, for example, BDK Rouge Smoking, or kind of like Kayali's Love Fest Burning Cherry. That is the kind of cherry scent that I'm getting out of this fragrance. A lot of almond heavy fragrances actually smells like cherry, and Marzipan Gourmand is one of them. Now, after full day wear, I notice that the dry down of this is more of like a cherry and fluffy marshmallow scent. Even though the opening smells like a marzipan cake, okay? The final dry down is different from first spray. This definitely turned into like a sweet, cherry, nutty almond scent that is very fluffy. So imagine like a cherry and almond flavored marshmallows. That's how it smells like to me. So having said that, not really like a cake or like a baked good. So I think if you are into cherry and nutty almond scents, then you're gonna love Marzipan Gourmand. This remains to be one of my favorites in his new collection. Longevity and projection are moderate, lasted me around 4 to 6 hours. Once again, Marzipan Gourmand. And last but not the least is Matcha Ice Cream. Now, I mentioned in my TikTok that this was my favorite out of the four. However, my description will change a little bit because now this to me is more of like a lemony ice cream kind of scent. The matcha is just in the background. So I would say that the lemon, or shall I say lime, is more prominent. And the kind of matcha that I'm getting from here is more of like a matcha swirl. So imagine having a matcha and lime ice cream. That's how matcha ice cream smells like. In the dry down, I get like 65% lemon and 35 matcha, as if the matcha is more on the background. Now, I am not complaining a lot though, because I think that lime made this fragrance perfect for the current weather. This is a kind of gourmand that I think you will enjoy if it's extremely hot and humid outside, because of that lime citrus factor. So I think if you're looking for a citrus gourmand to use this summertime, I will highly recommend you Matcha Ice Cream. I would say as well that aside from the lime and matcha facet of this fragrance, I also get some nuttiness that to me kind of smells like pistachio. I don't know. Is it just me? Yeah, because I'm getting like a little bit of pistachio nuance as well out of this fragrance. So imagine like a matcha, lime, and pistachio swirl. Then that's how matcha ice cream smells like. The opening of this fragrance is very addictive. It literally smells like lime and matcha ice cream, including the cone. It somehow reminds me of Theodoros Kalotinis lemon tart as well. But then, of course, I find matcha ice cream to be airier. There's something about it that feels cooling. It is definitely something that I will wear now that we are having heat wave in Portugal. And yeah, I like this fragrance. I know I mentioned that I love this during my first impression in TikTok. However, now that I've given time to know them more, I will say the best out of the four is Marzipan Gourmand. Well, of course, it's because I am into cherry scents, and there's something about it that is just very likable. Out of the four, I think this is the one that everyone will like. But is it my favorite though? No. My favorite out of the four is peach macaron, followed by matcha ice cream. I know that is weird now because I'm not into peaches and I didn't find peach macaron to be very appealing, especially at first spray because it was too realistic peaches to me. However, there's something about the dry down of peach macaron that is very interesting. I find it to be very enjoyable when it is hot and humid outside. I don't know, maybe because it lingers on the skin and it stays for a very long time as well. And yeah, I love the fact that it smells like a realistic peaches and cream as well. Not really a macaron though. I think this can even be called peaches and cream because that's how it smells like to me. So yeah, peach macaron is my favorite out of the four, but I think Marzipan Gourmand is the best out of the four and the most likable one. Matcha ice cream, if you're looking for a cooling gourmand this summertime. And tiramisu, I think, is something that I will reserve in the colder months, as this is very fluffy tiramisu cake. So that is the video for today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed. Let me know if you've tried any of these fragrances and if you love them or you hate them. You know that I love exchanging opinions with you guys. Also, if there's any new fragrance that you think are worth checking out, leave it as well in the comments down below. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, guys, and see you on my next one. Bye!